everyone, and welcome back to Binge Battle. I'm just your host, merely Mark Ellis. This is, I believe, our first episode of the year, and what a way to kick it off. We're talking about Sex and the City. I have a long and storied history with Sex and the City because, you see, when the movie came out, I was already familiar with the show. And when the show came out on HBO, it was sort of something that all of me and my boys wanted to watch too, just to get a glimpse as to what the opposite sex is thinking. Now, I was in school, so I really had no need to or means to apply any of that knowledge anywhere. I really still don't, but it's nice to know, and I enjoy the adventures of the fearsome foursome throughout their run, at least TV show in the first movie. The second movie, we'll talk about that probably, hopefully not during this show, because this is Binge Battle. We are focusing on the TV show Sex and the City. Welcome back, everyone. And now to introduce our esteemed guests today. They're both big fans of Sex and the City, as you can imagine. Starting first with a returning favorite. You know her as the host of Live at the Roxy, which is still running daily. My goodness, she is also one of the co-creators of the Whirl Girls hit program. Miss Roxy Striar is back. Roxy, hello, welcome back.
I've been waiting for this moment for a very long time, Mark. A very long time, probably longer than people waited for a revival of the series.
Okay, so you've been dreaming about this moment, and the first time that became a sugar plum in your head. When was the first time that you stumbled upon Sex and the City? Was it airing? Did the movie get you in? What was your entry point?
It was definitely something that the older girls were watching. And I wanted to be one of the older girls. And I had those parents who were like, watch anything you want. We don't care what you're doing with your life. So I did, and learned a lot about both Sex and the City. And which I just emphasize the "and" because the amount of people who still call this Sex in the City, it's just egregious. Pay it some respect. It's both Sex and it's also the City. So I've been watching this forever. And then I did a rewatch, and then I'm a big movie watcher, and I will fight to the death about how great the movies are as well. So I might have a little bit of a blind spot when it comes to the show, because to me, it's like my family. It's like my friends. It's how I learned to be a woman.
So now we introduce a newcomer to Binge Battle, but you're probably already familiar with her great work, everything from comedy to hosting TV to getting in the world of politics. You've seen her on everything from Huffington Post to EW, writing, contributing, hosting, the whole gamut. And now here on Binge Battle, it is Heather Gardner. Hello, Heather. How are you?
Hello. Oh my gosh, you make me sound so official. I'm doing great, and I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, y'all both have like the best backgrounds in the showbiz right now, because we've all been practiced at this for the last couple of years. So, Heather, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Roxy. When was the first time that you came upon Sex and the City? Was it something that you initially glommed onto, or were you resistant?
I was never resistant, but I did not have cool parents like Roxy did, who just let me watch anything I wanted at 10 years old. I don't even think we had an HBO subscription. I think we were pretty much basic cable at that point too. So my first time watching Sex and the City was in my late 20s. I was already married and immediately regretted not spending my 20s having sex all over a big, fabulous city.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's Sex and the City. There is a lot of sex in the city. And I've always said it right, Roxy, for the record. But anytime a show is called, it's got that "and" symbol in there, I tend to, my southernness comes out and I just go, Sex and the City, y'all. But today it is Sex and the City, and it's between Heather Gardner and Roxy Striar. Here's how it works. We have 4 rounds. Unless there's a tiebreaker, then we'll go to a 5th round. In each round, each of our competitors gets a minute opening statement about whatever question I pose, and then they'll have a 30-second rebuttal period, and then there will be a final argument that's just going to be a quick statement. Could be 10 to 15 seconds, could be less if you want it to be. It's your call. It is Sex and the City, and I am so excited to get this episode underway. And so we are going to start with the question of best character. That is our first topic here today. And to kick us off, it's going to be Heather Gardner. Heather, whenever you're ready, you may begin your opening statement for the best character on Sex and the City.
Well, I had to grab my Cosmopolitan martini because do you prefer your martini straight up or with a twist? Samantha, hands down, every day I will fight anybody who says otherwise. And the reason why I love Samantha so much is because, everybody goes through their journey through the 6 seasons of the show, but Samantha from day one, she's so comfortable with herself. She's so comfortable with her sexuality. It's Sex and the City after all. She's so comfortable with her body. And I feel like she's the inspiration for all the other girls and kind of, we don't know how old she is. She just keeps that to us, but she is like that older sister for these other girls. And I absolutely just cannot get over her confidence. My favorite moment of the entire series for her is when she decides that she is going to take nude photos, not for a man, not for Playboy, not for her girls, but for herself, to look at her ass and say, I am amazing. I love you, but I love me more. Samantha, I will drink to you all day, every day.
I could do the Cosmos. I don't think anybody needs naked pictures of me, even just myself. So let's go over to Roxy. So Roxy, Heather took Samantha. Who is your best character on Sex and the City?
I think for the first time in Binge Battle history, I can't do anything other than also take Samantha, but for different reasons. Because here's the thing, you can't ask a Sex and the City fan who their favorite character is, who the best character is, and have them not say Samantha, because you would have to be not a fan. You'd have to be not a fan of the show. That's the truth. So I'm going to tell you guys a story. I have a little story that I want to tell you guys. This is a hat I received in the mail about 5 years ago from one of my closest friends from when we were in high school and we watched the show together. She sent me a hat that says, I'm an effing Miranda. Like, I'm a Miranda. I haven't spoken to this girl since this hat came into my mail. To call somebody anything other than a Samantha is to say you are a whiny, bratty, annoying, bad friend. Samantha's the only one on the show who is a legitimately good friend, who chooses not just her friends over men every single day, but she's also the first time we've ever seen a character on television, and I mean ever, who is having sex with whoever she wants consensually and feels 100% great about it. We have never seen that before. We had seen people sleep around and all of their friends were really rude about it, and then they feel really ashamed about it the next day. But she was the first one to be like, what are you talking about? I can do what I want here. She never judged her friends for anything else. They judged her back, but she was the best friend and the best character on the show, hands down.
Okay, so these are great points y'all are making, and you did pick the same character. That's fine. I love when we make history. We have hats, we have Cosmos. So Heather, I'm going to go back to you for your rebuttal first. You don't necessarily have to go against Roxy because that would be attacking your own choice as well. But you can just continue to make the argument, and I'll just have a really tough time judging this round.
Well, like I said before, too, is like I saw the series well after I was married. So, I mean, not to say that I don't have great sex, but I don't live that life. And I really latched onto Miranda. Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Samantha. I latched onto her. Roxy got me in my head because no, you never want to be called Miranda. No. And other people called me a Charlotte, and yeah, I am a Charlotte, but I always aspired to be the Samantha. I wanted to be that person who could just feel so comfortable with anything and talking about anything. She says what is ever on her mind. She walks up to people and calls them a for hurting her friend. She's the fiercest friend of all of them. And Roxy was right. She never let a man get in the way of her friendships. And honestly, that's what this whole show is about. Yes, it's Sex and the City, but it's really about your girlfriends and living in a fabulous city. And she just encapsulates all of that for me.
Okay, so Roxy, it seems like Heather enjoys somewhat living vicariously through a character like Samantha.
What can I say?
Your feelings, Roxy, for your rebuttal.
Well, as I am still very alone, not married and single, I get to live the Samantha lifestyle. So she's near and dear in my heart because she is somebody who encouraged me to live my best life and to go out there and do what I want. But to get into some specifics, not only did she not just choose men over herself, over her friends, she chose herself over men. She's one of the only people on the show, when she falls in love with Richard, she says, I love you, Richard, but I love me more. And she decides that she cannot be with him. We don't see any other woman on this show do that. And it's saying to all the women out there, it is better to be alone than to be with the wrong person. And that's not something that any of the other characters on the show ever made a decision about. She also did something that we hadn't seen on television before too, which is that when Miranda decides she thinks she wants an abortion, She's the friend that supports her. And we hadn't seen that because Charlotte gives her a really hard time and was in her own thoughts about her own situation. And Carrie has her head so far up her butt sometimes that I don't even think she's listening to the conversation half the time. Plus, she's the best character on the show because people won't even watch the new show because she's not on it. Any other character that was not there, people would be watching, but no, people aren't watching the show because they're like, no, Samantha, I'm out.
It's really a too bad about Charlotte. I always considered myself a Charlotte kind of fella, but y'all are winning me over to the Samantha argument. So let's go to your closing statement, starting with you, Heather. If you could sum up in a tiny capsule why you love Samantha so much.
I mean, fierce, fabulous, just unashamedly herself. And I'm going to have to disagree with Roxy here too. She puts herself first. And I think for women, it is so, so, so important. And the fact that we got that in the late 90s. And I mean, honestly, all throughout history now, thank you, television, we have that role model. And I'm going to look up to her literally till the day I die.
Okay, Roxy, your final statement supporting Samantha.
She's a character that's not just the best character on the show, but one of the best characters we've ever seen in TV history, ever. To the point where on Binge Battle, we both had to fight for her. I think that without Samantha, there wouldn't have been this new wave of sex positivity in women on television because HBO tested it. They said, ooh, if we do this, are people going to be okay with this or are they going to hate her character? And they showed that not only did people accept her character, they loved her the most. And that gave other shows in the future permission to have Samantha's on their shows.
It's a lot to chew on here. But first and foremost, I just want any presidential candidate watching this program to realize, hey, look, we just had a nice debate, but they agree about a topic and a fly didn't land on either one of their heads. So maybe we don't have to be yelling and screaming at each other at all times. Maybe we can actually agree on some issues. Now, if that issue is Samantha and supporting Samantha, I think that you're going to look back on this show and say it continue to realize how important this show was in breaking new ground on television and how it's a mirror to society. And so if you have Samantha, the thing that impresses me about both y'all's arguments is that you said some of the same things, but you also looked at her differently because Roxy, like you said, you're single. Heather, you said you're married, but and it seems like the grass is greener for both y'all on the other side sometimes. But if we're just judging it, I would always assume that somebody who is single, who's young and watching the show says, oh, I'm like a Samantha. I want to be like a Samantha. But I was really impressed to hear how much Samantha had won over Heather, who had already been married before she had ever seen the show and glommed on to Samantha. So I think I'm leaning slightly toward the Cosmo helps too. I think I'm slightly leaning towards Heather here in round one. So great argument by both y'all. Roxy, I want you to keep the hat, ditch the friendship, but keep the hat. But the point goes to Heather in round one. So Heather is on the board. It is 1-0, but we have a whole lot of binge battle left as we careen into topic number 2. And this show ran for a long, long time on HBO. And now I'm going to have the fun task of asking these two incredible personalities to break down their favorite moment of all the seasons. What was your one favorite moment? Roxy, you get to kick this round off with your opening statement, your favorite moment from Sex and the City.
This is the moment that encompasses the entire show the most. So if you love this show, I don't see how it's possible that this isn't the standout moment to you. There is an episode, season 4, episode 1. It's called Agony of the Ecstasy. I like a little pun here. It's EX, like X to see, Okay, it's punny. You'll laugh when you get there, This episode is all about Carrie turning 35, which as a woman who is single in my 30s, it's a very stressful situation to be having birthdays in your 30s, to be wondering if you're ever going to find your man, to know that this might be my life forever. It might not be my life forever. When I come home, it's just me. What is it that I do have? And it's a grueling episode, honestly, where you're watching her go through a lot of different things. She throws herself a birthday party dinner. Everybody's running late. She's sitting there alone for hours. It doesn't work out. No one shows up. But at the end of the episode, she's gone home to shower. She's taking off her makeup. She's listening to her voice machines. Every single friend is leaving her a voice message saying, I'm sorry, I'm in traffic. I'm late. I couldn't be there. And then she's in the shower. Her friends come busting through her door. Charlotte comes and gets her and says, "We are so sorry we're late. We're taking you out." They're sitting downstairs at a restaurant. They're sitting there, the four of them. And she opens up and Carrie says, "I don't know that I'm going to be okay. I hate to say it out loud. And it's not always about a man, but am I going to be alone?" And they decide, the four of them, you know what? Your soulmate isn't a guy. All of our soulmates are each other. And guys are just the people we have fun with. And that is the whole theory of this entire show, is that these four women, whether I understand it or not, because sometimes their friendship is not, I don't understand, but they're soulmates. The four of them are soulmates. They're supposed to be together. And the guys that come through the show really aren't the point. And it's this beautiful moment and a pact they all agree on. And that's what that is what Sex and the City is all about.
As a guy, I probably should be disagreeing with you, but I agree that we should just be background in y'all's lives. As long as we get to watch football on Sundays, I'm fine with that arrangement. Let's go to Heather now, because that's a really poignant moment in the history of Sex and the City, and it really typifies not necessarily where the show started, but where the show had gotten to by that point. So it had this beginning entryway, and then you have this matriculation to these folks realizing that they really do care about each other the most, and they are an insular unit. So Heather, it's a tall order. What is your favorite moment from all of Sex and the City?
I'm not going to disagree with Roxy that was a beautiful moment. I may or may not have teared up when I rewatched it, in preparation for this. Okay, let's just get out of the way. But for me, with the whole purpose of this show, and especially like when HBO put this out, because Roxy, everything you said about like how this is a pop culture phenomenon and flip the script on women and these strong single women in their 30s exploring their sexuality, I believe that 100%. And to me, it all comes to a head here with episode 9 of season 6, A Woman's Right to Shoes. Because this theme plays out the entire series, that a woman's place is not to be sex positive, not to be out and about gallivanting in your 30s. You need to lock down a man. You need to have your kids. You need to have your friends or whatever, but those are the most important things, not you just living your life. And we saw that in season 1. She goes to a baby shower and she has all these internal thoughts like, am I going to be this person? What do I want for my life? Well, flash forward 6 years later, she goes to another baby shower. Her Manolos get stolen from the baby shower. And she asks her friend, she's like, hey, can you pay for these shoes? And her friend's like, I am not here to pay for your extravagant life. These are your choices. I have a real life. I have real responsibilities as a wife and a mother. And she shoe shamed her, but not just her clothes, but really, honestly, it was her lifestyle. I'm sorry that you don't have a real life like the rest of us women here. And in season 1, Carrie walked away and never really thought about it again. But in season 6, she went back. She called her friend and was like, no, I am marrying myself. I am registered at Manolo Blahnik, and you are going to pay for my shoes. And she got her shoes. And I just thought it was such a beautiful, beautiful moment. And it is like the full circle of the entire series is like women can be whatever they want to be. And that's the whole point of the show to me. You get to make your own choices as a woman, not what society says, not what any man says, certainly what you say is right for you.
Amen. And if I ever meet a young lady who would prioritize shoes over kids, just tell me where you want the ring. All right, let's go back to Roxy Striar for her rebuttal. Why is your episode moment maybe better than the shoe incident?
So here's what I'm not going to do, Mark. I am not going to sit here and say that shoe thing was not amazing. It is legendary. For all of us single women out here who have decided to have a different kind of lifestyle, who have had to go to 8,000 baby showers and have people judge us for everything we do, that shoe moment was the ultimate shoe revenge. And you're just rooting for every single second of Carrie's journey. It's amazing. But it's Carrie, and it's just Carrie. And there's no Samantha, and there's no Miranda, and there's no Charlotte. And although arguably Carrie is the protagonist of this show is about four best friends. And this moment is about one girl in her shoes. And yes, it is showing that one girl. And yes, it is awesome that after she asked her friend to write a check and the girl tried to write a $200 check, which is clearly not how much those shoes cost. And we all know that. I'm looking at every one of you out there. After all of that, it's just Carrie's show. That's the Carrie show. And it's not the best moment of Sex in the City.
Feels like those are the Air Jordans for, I think I'm starting to feel how she felt when she lost the shoes. So let's go back to Heather. Heather, it is just about Carrie, but it is a very important moment to you. Elaborate.
Well, it's important to me because, yes, even though I am married, I go to plenty of baby showers where they're like, okay, you're married. Where's the kids? Like, come on. I really resonated with that. I'm married, but I don't have kids. No, but I mean, yes, it was Carrie's like singular moment, but like she does have conversations about that moment with every single one of those characters in that episode. And Charlotte really pushes back and she's like, oh, but why? You're like, we want to celebrate all these good times in my life. And she's like, no, we need to celebrate everything, not just the marriage, not just the kids. And Charlotte didn't agree with her. And Carrie, you know what? She didn't argue. She was like, that's what you want for you, but it's not what I want for me. And then she had the same conversation with Miranda and then Samantha, and they all just agreed. I think that's the whole point of the show is like, whatever you choose, whatever it is. And maybe, I mean, that's great that they're all together. And that is the beauty of the show, that they can all come together and be each other's soulmates, but they're all still their own separate people at the same time, lifting each other up and supporting each other and being there for the hard times, being for the great times, whatever that looks like for each individual woman's life.
Great time, definitely in a baby shower for this guy. So let's go back to Roxy for your final statement here. This is clearly moments that you are both very passionate about. So Roxy, your closing argument.
It's a question we've all asked ourselves at some point, no matter what phase in life you're in, is what is a soulmate? And is my husband my soulmate? Is a friend my soulmate? Does a soulmate even exist? And for this show to take this moment to redefine that your soulmate does not have to be the person that you go to sleep and wake up with. It doesn't have to be even the father of your children, the mother of your children, or whatever it is. It can be whatever you want. And we are possibly, as a society, putting the significance on the wrong thing. And so to give the option to people, the first time that we are seeing the option, your soulmate might already be in your life, and it might just be your best friend. And that's going to be the person who's there from beginning to end. What a beautiful moment for anybody who's ever been confused about that word.
Powerful stuff. My soulmate is snoring right over there in the corner. All right, Heather, your final statement for round two. It's been a good one.
Oh, it's hard because I agree with everything that Roxy is saying. But at the end of the day, like, yes, you have your soulmate. And like, I can confidently say that I have found my soulmate in my man. But at the same time, like, if he were to knock on all the wood, go away for whatever reason, like I have to be comfortable with myself and my choices. And your soulmate, another person, if you rely on yourself for another, to be a part of another person, I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure. The moment you decide that you are the most important person in your life, that's when I think you're winning. And that was that moment to me.
And that's the magic of this show. And the beauty of these two debates that we just had is that if you're just looking at this from a scoreboard perspective, you would say soulmates versus shoes. That's an easy win for soulmates. But the shoes represent something. They represent a lifestyle. They represent how one wants to conduct their own business and one being happy with that lifestyle choice versus what the conventions of society say. The soulmates becoming that and showing up for you in your most desperate hour. It's certainly not the birthday I would want, because I remember that episode, Roxy, and in my opinion, Carrie's having the best birthday of all time because she's by herself. She gets to go have dinner alone. Nobody's bothering her. And then her friends show up and drag her out. But I understand where she is in that moment. And so Sex and the City is a show that began with the opening credits, and it was Carrie and it was her story. But as we matriculated through the seasons, we realized that they really do complement each other so well. And so as much as it is Carrie's tale to tell, for the most part, we also do not have a show if we do not have this foursome that is always going to have each other's backs. And I don't think it's ever been better exemplified in that episode that was Carrie's birthday. So by a slimmer margin than you might expect, I am going with Roxy's decision here, and it is a 1-1 ball game. We are tied after 2 rounds as we head into round number 3, the best season. This show ran for a number of celebrated seasons, got super high ratings, Buffo box office, and now we have to boil it down to the best season. So we're going to start with you, Heather. What is the best season in the history of Sex and the City?
Season 3 to me was the best season in the history of Sex and the City. One, because it's finally like we get over the shock of just women being sexual. I think it took a couple years for society to get to that point. And it was very, the first 2 seasons were very much focused on a lot of relationship fails and the shock and horror of dating in a city in your 30s and these hilarious, sometimes really gross like moments and being with your friends. But by season 3, we really start to we've gotten to know the characters and they start to grow. And it doesn't just become about, each episode isn't just about their own individual experiences. It's about how these are shaping them as a person. And I think everybody grows. Charlotte to me grows the most because she gets exactly what she wants by the end of it. The first 2 seasons, she was looking for the love of her life. And she had all these boxes she needed to check off. You needed to come from a good family, needed to come from a good school, needed to be rich, obviously. And she got everything she wanted. But by the end of it, she realized that just because you checked all the boxes doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be happy. And she was missing the intimacy. And then, as the seasons go on, she grows to find that. Samantha grows too, because yes, she's fabulous. Yes, she's fierce, but she was also really shallow in the first few seasons too. And she opens herself up to even more experiences, but not worrying about the richest guy or the most handsome guy. But she's to me, the clicking moment was when she started dating the shorter guy and realized that she likes someone who can make her laugh there too. And Miranda, I think she's the pessimist of the show. And that's when she meets Steve. And that's when she realizes that, oh, wait, I am allowed to have nice things and let Steve come in. And obviously there's ebbs and flows as we go throughout the rest of the season or the rest of the series. But that to me was just their moments of just flourishing and really getting in to their own selves to just grow. And that's honestly what I love about shows in general is I need to see these characters grow and grow and grow. They can't just keep making these same mistakes over and over. And I think season 3 really was that for me.
Wait, are you saying that you need to give a TV show more than a season to really let it show its true set? That's shocking. I know. Are you listening to Heather TV execs? Give it a shot. All right, Roxy, your favorite season. Your opponent technically took season 3. Are you going deeper into the show or are you going with one of the first 2?
I noticed that you left out a lot of Carrie's storyline in season 3. I'm looking forward to see what you do when you get to that. Let's talk a little bit about my favorite season, season 6. To be fair, equally as polarizing. This is some people's favorite season. This is some people's not favorite season because it's the longest season. We've got a lot to chew on here. And that means, of course, there are going to be some episodes that aren't as powerful. But overall, I would take a meh episode of Sex and the City and 15 great ones and 5 meh ones than any other 8-episode season where it comes and goes. And at least you didn't pick season 1 and they're talking directly to the camera and it's atrocities. We've lived with these people for 6 seasons. These are characters now that we love in our souls. They are extremely flawed, but we know them. And so in this season, it's the first time that we decide, okay, this is a comedy, but this is real. What are we going to do? What happens to real people in real life? And we are dealing with cancer this season. We're dealing with people getting married. We're dealing with people getting heartbroken in a way that we hadn't seen before and deciding whether or not you should go for a guy who might make you feel everything you want in your soul, but at the end of the day is the wrong person for you. The Samantha breast cancer storyline is one of the best storylines we did on the show. It results in one of the best scenes that I've ever seen on television when her boyfriend decides to shave his head and just takes the clippers and shave it. Everybody felt for her so much in those moments. Charlotte converting to being Jewish. Thank you to having any kind of Jews on television so people understand even what it means to be Jewish and actually getting her involved in this. The guy before the guy, we have Carrie with Alexander Petrovsky, which is the only reason that we're okay with her ending up with Big, because we're like, oh, she's tried everything else. Okay. It's got to be Big. Fine. She's done everything else. There's nothing else more that we can do. This is what it has to happen here. So for all of those reasons, and we're dealing with fertility issues too with Charlotte and Harry. So there's so much real stuff that it's still a comedy, but it's the first time the show's like, okay, these are real people. Let's put them through real situations.
And a pretty good episode about shoes in that season, I believe. Heather, let's go back to you for your rebuttal round. Why is season 3 maybe a little better than season 6?
Well, I always hate to end things, first of all. So, I have my own ideas as like a true fan of like how things should have ended, who Carrie should have been with, how things go. So I hate I honestly can never say that like the last season of any show is my favorite, because it's just too sad. I get too invested, as Roxy said. But I just loved also, because for the first time, and I didn't mention Carrie, but I'll mention her now, for the first time in season 3, we saw her not chasing Mr. Big, because right in the first episode, we saw that, and all through season 2, but he was unavailable. Yes, she was still thinking about him, obviously, as women do, but she wasn't chasing him. And so she opened herself up to more experiences as well. And yes, like, I'm so happy we got to these endpoints. Not going to argue with Roxy. There was some of the best television. I just told you season 6 had my best moment. But to get to these nice endpoints, we have to see them grow and struggle. And nothing ended well in season 3. Miranda's with Steve, so that's nice. Samantha, she hadn't quite figured out that she wanted to be in a monogamous relationship at that point. Carrie, the disaster of season 3 with Carrie and her love life, with the triangle with Aiden and Mr. Big. And then Charlotte, of course, getting married and realizing that it's not all it's cracked up to be. And so like, that is real life. The end bow is not what we're all dealing with right now in our lives. We are all just struggling through it together. And so season 3, I like to see them struggle, because I know the end is coming, but like, you don't know that in your own life. We don't get the bow at the end of the episode. So I like to see the realities of like going through a really hard time.
I'm going to say that now. If I'm having a tough week and my friends are like, hey, Mark, what's wrong? I'm going to be like, man, I'm just going through season 3 right now, man.
See, there you go.
It's the season 3 of my life, man. All right, Roxy, your rebuttal to why, because like Heather does make a good point. It's hard for TV shows to stick the landing sometimes. Why did season 6 do it so brilliantly?
Well, season 6 sticks the landing because everybody knows that everybody says there shouldn't have been movies or another show, because season 6 rounded it out so well. So the fact that people were like, this is how it should have ended, and it ended this way, means that they did the right thing and they did right by their characters. But I just want to talk about season 3 for a second, because when people talk about Sex in the City and they say something along the lines of, I hate Carrie, this is what they're talking about. Season 3 Carrie is what they are talking about. This is the season where our protagonist becomes the antagonist. This is somebody who we are watching with a great guy, Aiden. He's the guy that you all want to be with. You're looking at Aiden and you're like, this is the guy that you hope your friend marries. And she's like, you know what I should do? I should light him on fire and not pee on him while he's on fire. And instead, I should go back to my ex and start sleeping with him and have an affair, because I don't care about anybody but myself. I'm Carrie Bradshaw. And to have a show that is not Seinfeld, that is not It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where you're allowed to hate your characters, to have a show for an entire season where for you cannot stand the lead character, it became unbearable to watch her. You wanted her off her own show.
Okay, for the record, before we get to final arguments, I will say, as somebody who's done multiple ride-alongs with real firefighters, pee is highly overrated in terms of actually combating flames. So I just want to put that out there. Don't ask how I know. I just know. Okay, final argument time for what has become the best debate of the show so far. Season 3 for Heather, your final statement.
I can't believe you're hating on Carrie. I mean, listen, truth. Like, she did some shady things in that season, and it was not very easy to like her. But hate is a very strong word, Roxy, okay? No, but I mean, like, that's the whole point of this to me. It's like, life is messy. We all do things that we are ashamed about. We all do things that our friends look at us and are like, you are making a terrible decision. You may have just effed up your life. You have broken up. I mean, not personally speaking, but you broke up a marriage. You're dealing with all these things. Like that's just life. And I like the idea that I know that television is an escape, but I also like the idea of like, they can get through it, so I can get through whatever nonsense, whatever fire I'm going through. I want to know that at the end of the day, like my friends will still be there for me too. And maybe you don't like me during this season, but we're gonna get to season 6. As I hit my microphone, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get to season 6. Okay, stick with me.
And we did get there, and Roxy loved it. So Roxy, season 6 wrapped up Sex and the City. Now you get to wrap up your argument for said season.
It's just incredible that a show like this that had 500 men come and go and had so many different storylines wrapped up so beautifully. It's not just the final season. It's not just the final episode. It's the final season that they were like, we have to do right by our fans. Where should Charlotte end up? What do we want for her? We want her to be happy. We want her to finally found her man after we went through that disaster of a Trey storyline in season 3, where she ended up with a nightmare person. Although the thing we hated about him is that he had ED, which by the way, does not hold up today. Like, how is that going to be what we're mad at him about? There was a lot of other things, but we finally find her person. And that's what we wanted for her. We have that for all the women, and it is hopeful without feeling like super sappy and saturated. And it wraps it up so well that people wanted it to just stay there because they did a whole season, 20 episodes building to, here you go, you're welcome, fans.
Man, this was fun to listen to. So this does appeal to not just my Sex and the City fandom, which I do possess some of. It also hits me right in the Star Wars feels, because I feel like we're debating Empire Strikes Back versus Return of the Jedi here. Mm-hmm. Because in season 3, Heather's absolutely right. We see Carrie not necessarily as the antagonist that Roxy might make her out to be, and how we might have felt at the time, but you're revealing layers to this character, and you're getting deeper into the mythology, if you will. She becomes a fully fleshed out person who is capable of making erroneous decisions, even if she is the star of the show. And then you have Roxy's Return of the Jedi here, which is taking so many of these storylines. It's like going back behind one of those old fatback TVs and having to untangle all the cords and making sure that it all makes sense at the end of the day. And so while I am so torn between both of these arguments, I do feel like throughout the history, and we intimated as much earlier, television usually doesn't stick the landing as well as it does with season 6. And I think that that is the highest hurdle to hit if you are a beloved television series. The more loved you are, the harder it seems to have a quality final hurrah. And I think Sex and the City did that, and Roxy illuminated us to that. So as much as I love Empire Strikes Back, I do prefer Ewoks. So I think I'm going with Roxy Striar's argument for season 6 in round number 3. And it is now 2-1 in favor of Roxy Striar. This is just how quickly things can get heated and can get changed and switched around on this show. Now we move to round number 4, but there is a caveat because there are technically 2 rounds left. I want to see if we can get to both rounds. And so for round number 4, I want to just speed it up a little bit. So we're going to shed the rebuttal. We're going to shed the closing argument. We're simply going to do a minute each. And then if I'm nice, I'll let y'all each have a final argument real quick. But we're going to a speed-ish round for round number 4. And that round is, of course, you knew it was coming, y'all. Who is Carrie's best boyfriend? And we're going to start with Roxy Striar. Roxy, 1 minute on the clock.
Okay. He's not the best man. He's not the best man. I'll never say that he is. He is Carrie's best boyfriend, and that is big. We know he's Carrie's best boyfriend because every other man she's with, she leaves or cheats on to be with Big. And we also know it because we got then 2 movies and another TV series, and she ended up with Big. So who you end up with, the person that you deserve to be with, is the person that you choose every single day, no matter how great all the other guys are around you. Big keeps her on her toes. That's important to her. Why is it important to her? I'm not quite sure, but we see that it is. We see that she loves that he's mysterious, that she loves these big, grand romantic gestures. Everyone has different love languages. She knows hers. Her love language has a name. His name is big. She doesn't care that he can't commit when he can't commit. She doesn't care that he moves to Paris. She cares that he is rich. He will give her the lifestyle that she needs. And she cares that that is the person that for some reason she is drawn to the most and wants to be her partner. The best boyfriend for Carrie is the one that she picks from day one of the show to the last moment of the most recent episode of And Just Like That. It's big.
If you enjoy Roxy's work, you can catch her at the Hilton Ballroom B giving a motivational speech. That was stirring. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. Let's go to Heather. So, Heather, I have a feeling I know who your answer is going to be. Roxy took big. Who, in your opinion, is the best Carrie boyfriend?
It's going to be hard for me to not just go ahead and start with the rebuttal, because I do not think that Big, yeah, I agree. He wasn't a good man, but he also was a terrible, terrible boyfriend from the very first episode all the way. Yeah, he went and get her from Paris, whatever. But like, it took 6 years. No, Aiden from day one was the nicest, pushed her to be, like I said, that better person. Again, maybe it because he just got introduced to us in season 3. Maybe I'm a little bit partial here, but this was her growing moment. And she needed to get out of, you know, the crazy guys. I love that she was like stuck with another guy that wasn't big, that she actually like learned what it was like to be treated correctly. I'm sorry, the bathroom scene where he just makes this gorgeous candle lit bathtub for her. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yes, give me the shoes, give me the rich lifestyle, but also that counts too. I'm sorry. Riches fade away, but someone that sweet and that nice. And he always, always, always put her needs first. There was never a wandering eye incident from him. There was never a, oh, sorry, baby, I can't, I got to go to work today incident, which we saw for 6 years with Big. So he was I know, not the right guy for her. That's fine. But I believe this category was best boyfriend. And he was the best boyfriend. He treated her so much better than everyone else on this entire series.
It's a good thing Carrie's not a touring comedian, because I don't know that you could ever trust Big at home. If you're going to do the Funny Bone in Cincinnati, you got to bring the guy with you. You just can't trust him. Now, I will say that Big, again, start to finish, was seemingly the perfect fit for Carrie. If you're talking about the best boyfriend, I remember seeing Aiden and being like, oh, that's me. And not that I'm that handy around the house. I can fix a few things. I do enjoy a KFC bucket of chicken as a resort. That might be my birthday meal, as a matter of fact. I feel like I'm going to go with the better human here. And I think that sometimes in a partner, we look for somebody who isn't necessarily the best fit for us right now, but somebody who elevates us to a higher plane. I don't know that Aiden always did that with Carrie, but I think that I believe in that willpower enough to give the win to Aiden and thus to Heather here in round 4. And that also happens to set us up for a tiebreaker round of epic proportions. So it is 2-2. We got Cosmos, we got effing Miranda hats. This is everything that you want in a Sex and the City binge battle. And now it all comes down to the final round. It's going to be a speed round again, but I will give you all a final argument in there as well, because the question is simply, is And Just Like That good? Is it worth revisiting? So we might have to do this a little differently, because Roxy, I know you've seen it. Heather, have you seen And Just Like That?
Well, no, and that sets me up for my answer. It's not worth watching.
Then you know what?
No.
I'll let you have the floor first. You can say why you, as a huge fan of Sex and the City, have not seen And Just Like That.
I mean, I agree with everything Roxy said about the 6th season and what you said too. It is so difficult for television to get series right when they end, and especially some as beloved as Sex and the City. It is hard, and we have a much longer list of all the things that went wrong rather than this like golden standard of the things that went right. And Sex and the City falls in that category. I'm happy with that. I really am. It's fine with me to just leave it that way. I didn't feel like I needed any more. And I saw the movies and they were fine. I kind of had them as their own little entities, but I didn't need a continuation of the story. I really did, even though it pains me to agree with Roxy. I did feel that it just had a great bow. And And reboots are really hard for Hollywood to get right. My favorite show of all time is How I Met Your Mother. And I immediately flocked to How I Met Your Father because why not? And I immediately regretted it. I don't need to mess with a good thing. I'm probably going to watch it. I just didn't rush to go do it because I just love the series so much as a standalone entity. Hollywood got it right. Don't mess with a good thing.
Great references to both the Cincinnati Bengals and Minnesota Vikings woes of the past in How I Met Your Mother. So, Roxy, you have a tall order here, but if you pull it off, you might win the whole binge battle. Can you convince me, because I haven't seen it either, and Heather, why we need to watch And Just Like That?
Did we need to make this show? Absolutely not. Now that they made it, it's awesome. And I'm not kidding you. Like, I cannot get over how good this show is. And I keep texting my friends who haven't watched it to say, you have to watch this show. What they have done is so wild because they made our characters who used to be progressive when they were 30. They made them the non-progressive ones of this show. They don't know what's up with society anymore. And so they're starting to try to figure out, how do we live in a world where we are on podcasts with people who are non-binary and we keep messing up their pronouns? How do we live in a world where my professor is black with braids and I commented on her braids because I'm Miranda and I didn't know any better because I am not that progressive? It's incredible that they decided our characters are not precious enough to us, that we're going to make them look like saints. We're going to put them in real situations and show that while talking about masturbating when they were 30 was on the cutting edge, now you're 50 and now you're behind. You have to constantly keep up. The way that this show handles Samantha not being there is the best they could possibly do. Would it be better if she was there? Of course, but she's not. And it's still Sex in the City. So what they do is they decide, all right, we're going to break up a bunch of relationships because this is Sex and the City. And now we're watching what we were watching before with 30-year-old women having sex in the city. We're watching 50-year-old women having sex in the city. It's really, really good. And I'm not just saying that to win this argument. I am telling you, this show is good. Like, I was shocked. I was going to give it one episode and then I'm in. It's very good.
Heather, I'm going to give you a final argument, but you can also just simply say if Roxy won you over or not.
Well, the part, I mean, because I haven't seen it, so I didn't know that they all broke up. You just told me that you loved all of the great, like the way that everything just tied together, and now we're just gonna like throw a wrench at it? What? No, I don't want to see that. I want to live in my fantasy world where Bay goes and gets her from the mean guy who slapped her in Paris and whisks her back to be with her true soulmates, and they can all live out their lives in beautiful harmony. Don't tell me that everything gets bad again.
All right, Roxy, your final argument for why we need to see And Just Like That.
Okay, so they didn't all break up, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it made national news. But
It's true.
In the first episode, we know that Big is no longer in the picture. So the way that now, and that happens in life. You finally think you found your man. You've gone through everything, and guess what? They die because things happen in life. So what do? You have to keep living and you have to learn how to have sex again and lean on your friends, your actual soulmates. Remember, we learned that earlier, best moment of the show. The way that they have decided, also just calling a spade, this was the whitest show of all time. We all know that. And then finally it was like, this show was like, okay, now, we're not going to just do that thing where we throw one person of color in there and say, now we're not a white show. We are going to explore people of all different backgrounds, all different races. And we're going to show you guys that Sex in the City is not exclusive to white people. It's not only people having sex in the city are white. Spoiler alert. Like, it's insane. And they're righting some of their wrongs, even though I love that original show. We know what happened in the 90s and the 2000s. They didn't do right by anybody who wasn't white. So it's correcting a lot of mistakes it made, and it's doing it in a really powerful, funny way.
All right. Compelling arguments all around, not just in this round, but throughout the entire episode of Binge Battle. It's been so much fun. Now, they had the hard work up until this point. kids, because now it's my job to have to come up with somebody who won this. And I think what it comes down to for me is like, look, I referenced Star Wars before. I think it was troublesome for a lot of people, and they were a little apprehensive to dip their toes back in those waters and see what happened to our heroes, because Return of the Jedi ended on such a high note. We won. And now, oh no, we have to live the rest of our life. But as somebody who has not seen And Just Like That yet, I think Roxy did sway me for a couple different reasons, not the least of which is that my mom is single and she is currently, seeing folks. And I think that that's an important thing to see on TV, is that you don't have to be this young, attractive 20-something to be in a big city. And that's your time to date and figure out who you're going to be with. That can go on later on in life. But I also feel like Heather's probably going to watch this too now, because it was a good argument for Roxy.
I mean, I can't even hide it. I'm going to watch it. Thank you, Roxy. I'm going to. I will.
I was concerned about Samantha not being there, but then I remembered that I'm a huge Van Halen fan, and I saw Van Halen in 2015. Original bass player Michael Anthony wasn't there, and it would have been nice to see him, but I still got to see Van Halen. And so, again, by the slimmest of margins, both incredible, passionate arguments throughout this show. I'm giving the W today to the person who has a Sex in the City hat that she hates. Roxy Striar gets the win, but Heather's got a great Cosmo to enjoy as a consolation prize.
Roxy, this one's for you.
Oh, cheers, babe.
From over the internet.
Cheers to never being called a Charlotte and never being called a Miranda ever again.
Seriously, thank you. I'll drink to that.
I will bite my tongue then, and I will say we have two Samanthas on the show, first of all.
I wouldn't go that far. Not for lack of trying.
Two Samantha lovers.
Two Samantha fans here on the show, starting with our winning Samantha fan, Roxy Striar. Roxy, quickly, where can all the kids out there find you? What are you working on? Where can they follow you on the social medias?
Everywhere at Roxy Striar, and also the Whirl Girls, which you can find at the Whirl Girls. We give everything a whirl. And it's a lot of fun. So if Samantha is your favorite character, I bet she would love our show too. She gives things a whirl all the time.
And Heather, it's been such a delight having you make your debut here on Binge Battle. Where can everybody find you out there on the social media platforms?
This was so much fun. And I hope you invite me back so I can maybe do another rebattle with Roxy here. I feel like I got some stronger arguments in me. You can find me all over at Heather G TV. It's the same on all the platforms. I'm making it real easy for y'all.
We have a lot of fun Binge Battle episodes coming up, and I'd love to have both of y'all back. We're going to a galaxy far, far away soon. We're sticking with the more current HBO show sooner rather than later. So there's a whole lot of fun here at Rotten Tomatoes Binge Battle. For the latest and greatest with Rotten Tomatoes, just head over to their website. It's easy, RottenTomatoes.com. You can check out my podcast alongside Jacqueline Coley, Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong. And for upcoming stand-up dates, you can go to my website, markellis.live. For everybody here, including Christian Rubalcaba, our hardworking engineer, and his sweet puppy Draco, I am Mark Ellis. Molly the Wonder Dog is over there. For Heather Gardner, Roxy Striar, thanks for watching Binge Battle. We'll see you next time.